Welcome, Jodi, to the podcast Finding the You and Mum. I'm really delighted to have you here. You are Jodi Duval, a naturopath physician, and you have a passion with helping people optimize their health using evidence-based wellbeing methods. You're the founder of Revival Health, and you spend a lot of your time researching and understanding supplements and methodologies to improve people's well-being. You're a mother of two, and naturally, with that comes a busy life along with lots of travel. You also enjoy running, dancing, and generally, by the sounds of it, being fit. Very hectic, but it seems also like you're really enjoying quite a lovely balance as well. So, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure, Christine. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your journey in terms of becoming a mum. Was it something that you'd long planned or was it more of a surprise?
So, initially, when I met my partner at the time, my husband now, I wasn't really one to go towards babies, and some of my friends and colleagues would whip up any baby that's anywhere around them. So, I wasn't always like that. Playing, interacting, very playful with children. But when I met my husband, kids would just run to him. And I think that's a natural play for males. I was quite young at the time, so I think I just didn't even have it on my mind. When I saw that, and then obviously we'd been traveling and we came home and we'd gotten married, and I was like, oh, I'm ready. So it was almost a overnight change in
Mm.
my mind that I'm like, right, now I want to have children. I'm ready. Let's do it. And then came my son, and we fell pregnant instantly, which we're very lucky. And now I spend my life also helping women with fertility as well as the rest of my practice. I know how much of a miracle it can be to fall pregnant. And then 3.5 years later, I fell pregnant with my second, my daughter. I was very lucky. I had a beautiful pregnancy, we call it. And I had interviewed someone the other day. We had a really good chat about this, the matrescence, that transition from pregnancy or before you're a mother and then coming into being a mother. There's so much that changes, not just on a physical level, but an emotional
Mm.
and level as well. It has this announcement of creation. Born out of my first child also was business. In 2012, when my son was born, I also launched Revital Health. It was a bit of a different setup business then. It was more of workshops and teaching people how to make healthy meals and nutrition focus. Whereas now Revital Health is that functional medicine, it is integrative medicine, it is compounding and focus on all of that, but still all of the lifestyle components too. So yeah, that was my initial journey into motherhood, I guess.
It sounds to me like you've got a lot of passion for your profession, and it's beautiful how it does blend the concepts around being a mother and also helping women.
Mm.
How have you managed to juggle the two worlds? It seems like you've got a busy career, you're away a lot, and you're juggling quite a lot. How have you managed to achieve that and still feel you're making the most of the experiences?
Yeah, I think that everyone has their ways of balance. And I think what drives me in my business, and I'm very lucky in my profession, as you say, that I love what I do because it comes out of me in passion. And I'm enabling also my children to be learning about their bodies and to be passionate about health in general, and that and living by an example as well. I put huge value on looking after myself and looking after my health. And I think that's a huge part of having the balance right. Yes, there are days that I wish I could spend more time with my children. Yes, there are days where I'm with my children and I feel guilty for not doing work. But I think trying to maintain presence as much as I can, and I'm not perfect and I never will be, and I don't think any of us will be, but I think it's just knowing that is what we should be looking at, is being present in whatever you're doing at the time. And so the balance for me is just making sure that I don't work too much. I have certain days, and I'm very strict with my boundaries now. Wasn't that good previously, but I have to be now. Otherwise, I will burn out and I will feel irritable. And coming into my 40th year this year, perimenopause is around the corner or already been hitting. That influx of hormone shifts and changes also make it so much more dramatic in terms of that balance that we have.
It absolutely does. It's interesting that you talk about perimenopause and menopause because I'm really delighted that we're hearing a lot more conversations about it. And I think that topic, along with a lot of other topics like postnatal depression and just some of the struggles of motherhood, have for so long been held behind closed doors, and they've been considered something that perhaps a woman needs to minimize, or at worst even feel embarrassed or ashamed about because they might not be coping. Isn't it wonderful that we're now evolving into this new era where we're not just talking about the plight or the experience of perimenopause or menopause, but we're actually celebrating the fact that this is a natural progression with our body. And if we're awake to it, and if we identify the symptoms and be proactive, it can actually be quite a satisfying journey, would you say?
Yeah, and I think it's understanding that we will feel different and it's another evolution of ourselves. And I think that's important to understand because women, we get nostalgic. Well, everyone gets nostalgic. So it's why aren't I like I am? Or why am I not now like I was when I was 28 or 25? And it's knowing that we have to shift physiologically and mentally. And it's a coming of age and wisdom. We have to then tune in more. And it's more of a reminder, I find, especially when I'm talking with clients, that now it's time we can't get away with so much. And we have to really narrow in and focus on ourselves and wellness and really looking after our health and our mental load, rushing women's syndrome that Libby Weaver loves to talk about. So all of these things is really that we have to be focusing inwards on ourselves more. And that's what a lot of women find. Then you notice all these different observations, divorce rates or change of career or all these other things that come up for women at this particular time, because it's exactly that. It's who am I given my last sort of 20 years to learning a little bit about myself, partying, exploring, having children, getting married, having a career, and then you land in sort of 40s and above and you're like, oh, is this what I wanted? Is this who I am? So I think that is a really healthy thing to be doing, is to re-looking at that. And the body doesn't lie. So when we are overdoing it or we are doing things wrong, then the body is going to give you messages and it's going to start shouting really loud. And in perimenopause, there's less room for it to have a leeway. So the messages get really strong and really loud very quickly.
And it's even the little things, isn't it? Like getting bad sleep. When we were younger, we used to be able to have that accumulative rotten sleep night after night and just still be able to bounce back. And now you have one night that's a little bit tricky and you pay for it and you're just so much more aware. I'd love to go back. You mentioned the little phrase, the rushing woman. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that? Because I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. The other day, actually, I interviewed Dr. Libby on this topic, which was beautiful because I have been following her for many years and she's Australasia's leading sort of nutritional biochemist in the media. She's a beautiful person and she coined this idea many years ago in one of her first books, I believe. And what it means is that women particularly take on so much. We have a lot that we can do, so therefore a lot of it gets loaded on top of us. And we have so many different areas that we have to be looking after. We've got the children, the health of the children, we've got family, health, husband or friends, looking after friends, and we start looking after parents. That's just like the home side of things. And then we've got
Yes.
our appointments and our expectations on ourselves and our career and our job. So there's so much that we have, and this perpetual need of rushing or overwhelm that we have things to do. And this is where that presence really comes back in, and the breathing and knowing what actually is true and what our brain is telling us. So we've got this direct mode network that we always go by. And if we break through that, it's really the brain is like a child. It needs to be disciplined. So we need to be able to stop and meditate and know what actually is our truth. Is what's coming through in our heart, or is our brain just telling us that, or is our mind or our direct mode network just telling us that? What it creates is this perpetual stress and the hormones, and we have this amygdala driven fear and this constant running. We are in a physiological response of running away from a tiger. We are in a fight flight response, but we're in a fight flight response just from doing lunches in the morning, not from
Yes.
having a tiger running from us. So this just escalates, and we see it in the labs, we see it in the metabolites that I view for women. Then we start to see hormones. We have the HPA axis. So they're all driven by these processes of the nervous system, because our body is thinking it's constantly not safe because we are running or we are rushing all the time. So it's just an overload of our body's ability to homeostatically balance, and then sleep slips, and then our hormones go out, like I said, and then all these other physiological reactions we start to notice. But if we actually slow down or just focus step by step through our day and actually not be thinking 15 steps ahead, which we all
Yes.
do, we can step through and start to plan and have better boundaries and through all of that, then our physiological body and our mind will be a lot quieter. Yeah.
And it's a tricky one because I really relate to what you're saying around not going too far ahead in the to-do list and also trying to pare back the to-do list and make sure that you're not adding things that don't need to be there, doing things in an inefficient way, or doing things out of obligation, or even making the things that you've got to do seem harder or bigger than they need to be. But
Exactly.
the downside to not doing a little bit of that is not being organized.
That's right.
Because Jodi, I'm thinking about every dinner for the whole week by Monday morning. I'm like, okie dokie, so I'm going to batch cook this because I'm myself always in that tussle of being mindful and not let my mind worry and race too far ahead, but also incredibly conscious that if I don't have that lineup of the appointments and the schedules and how the week has to roll, I'm inevitably going to be disorganized in some way.
Life happens, doesn't it? And this is where I love the concept is that if we leave a little bit of room either side, we have that resilience. So we have a gap, whereas women these days don't have gaps. We don't have
Yes.
anything. So if something goes wrong, everything just whoop, sweeps out from underneath us like a rug. So we get clarity with space in terms of stopping and actually just breathing. So the most powerful thing that I see that works for clients, just by stopping a few times a day for 5 minutes to breathe, because the body then catches up with the mind, or the mind catches up with the body. And so they're just like sync for a minute and they're like, oh, it's not that great a big deal. Now I can compartmentalize and know dinner will be sorted at this time, that will be sorted at this time. So I don't need to think about it all the time. And that's the problem. It's like we think we should be thinking about it all the time. Whereas if we thought about it at certain times and planned in those times, then we don't have to think about it again. It's just knowing some strategies, I think, to be able to do that. None of this is going to go away. As you said, like I also have a very busy life, but I feel like if I can focus on those particular times and make sure I'm present, I will work for a nonprofit and I do a lot of video recordings. I do 2 podcasts. I do clients, 20 clients a week. If I can compartmentalize all that, then I still have time for fun and play and kids and teaching them, because I think a big part from what I see is that we don't actually spend enough time with our children in teaching them life skills now, because they are on devices, they are being shunted off to here and shunted off to there and busy in activities because we think they need to be there. But what they need is us. They need us to be talking to them, parents, grandparents, communities, to be teaching them the values and understanding what's right, what's wrong, what means something to them. And I think and what I see in practice, particularly in my pediatric clients, they are not guided as they should be. And it's not to the fault of parents, it's to the fault of, I think, society and this rushing where we're always busy and we feel guilty if we don't do. And then we feel guilty if we, it's just,
It's a rock and a hard place. And it's easy for it to slip out of our reach when we think that we have a handle on, say, for example, how much screen time our kid might be engaging with. And all you need to do is just take your eye off that for 5 minutes. And it only takes a few weeks before it's gradually escalated for them because it's so highly addictive.
yes.
I work with people every week talking about the dilemma of the screen dilemma for their young person and the guilt that comes with that as a mother, saying, how have I let my kid down? They're addicted to their screen. And I always try to normalize it and say to them that it's quite a phenomenon if your kid doesn't have some sort of addiction to their screen these days. And our job is just to be conscious of it, be managing it with them, and not be feeling bad about where they're at, but be proactive and stay with them, especially around the education. Talking a little bit more about your juggle and all, and I guess we were also alluding to the fact that there's so many balls in the air. What do you think about that whole concept of mother guilt? Because it comes up a lot in my work, and I've experienced it where I feel like damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I'm working, thinking about the kids and should I be spending more time with them and vice versa. What are your thoughts about that idea of as a concept, that mother guilt? Where's it come from? What should we be doing with it?
It comes from a natural place where we are trying to be better humans. And I think it's just us trying to be our best. Unfortunately, it has physiological impacts, mental impacts, life impacts, because we are worried all the time or concerned that we're not doing our full utmost. And daily, I will have this without a doubt. Even sitting here now talking to you, I'm thinking, oh, I should have said goodbye better this morning, or so there's always something that you feel that you could have done better. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's just us striving to be better. And
Yeah.
that's what, as a healthy human, we need to be looking at evolution and evolving through time and learning from our mistakes. What we don't want it to be is gripping and paralyzing, because
Mm.
that's where it can get to. And so understanding and being kind to ourselves and knowing that we can do better next time, or maybe we just are doing the best that we can with what we've got right now. Because most of us are feeling like we're in survival mode as a parent. We have to be just days, nights without sleep. The other night I was pretending to be asleep, so I didn't have to, because I'd already been up with my son. He's coughing night after night. And so my husband was up with my daughter, and I could hear kerfuffle, and I was like, I'm just going to lay here. I'm sure he's fine. And then I hear there's diarrhea all over the floor and he's cleaning it up. It gets intense as a parent. And then I was like, oh, now I feel guilty. I should have gotten up and helped. No, he's fine. And I needed my sleep, and then I needed to be better for them in the morning. So it is a balance. There's always something that you're making a decision about. And that's, again, it's a decision fatigue. Most mothers get to the end of the day when they haven't planned dinner and they're like, I have no idea. I've been making decisions all day. I don't know what to do for dinner tonight.
Mm.
So it's minimizing those decision fatigue moments as well. And so that you don't feel so overwhelmed and guilty for not making those right choices. So again, for me, it comes back down to giving myself moments and space. And it doesn't have to be huge portions of the day. I will sit in my car silently. I will make sure I feel like I'm organized for the day. I have my routine of checking my diary for the next day. So I feel like I'm never behind, but I'm also conscious of what I've got around me. So I know where those gaps can be placed in. So I think it's just being strategic around it.
It's almost like you've incorporated little reset moments during the day where you can just pause and take a breath and make sure that you're sending your messages correctly in your mind, that the day's running, everything's all right, and what have I got to do next? And
Mm.
also with the guilt, I do agree with you that I feel like I don't know if you can engineer it out of motherhood, but I like to perceive it more. Don't get stuck in the guilt, but just use it as a cue to do a check in. Okay, if I feel a bit guilty that I didn't say goodbye the way I wanted to today, tomorrow I'll just do better. That's okay. And then we let it go.
Yes, exactly. It is letting it go and not attaching to it and not letting it run your day.
In your journey so far, because it sounds like you have lots of people always in your life, but can you remember or recall a time when you felt particularly lost or alone during the journey of motherhood?
I think those early years when they're quite young is probably the trickiest time, although the most fruitful. And I think this is the yin yang to motherhood, is that in these moments of loneliness or feeling alone and feeling hopeless because you're so tired, you're exhausted, you feel like you're being tortured at night time because
It
they're
does.
you up constantly. It's a form of torture in some places. But then you have the beauty of the days and the fresh mornings and the realization that everything's beautiful and the love of your children and the laughs and the giggles. And it's just these little moments that then bring you back into yourself. And you
Mm.
realize that's my purpose right now. And I'm
Mm.
okay with that. But I think the early years, there's moments, particularly in moments of my cycle, and this is where it's really interesting to understand our cycle, is because
Mm.
sometimes things can appear worse than they are at certain times, or just give us a bit more of a foresight or an insight into what that is going on. But definitely, still now, there's moments always that I feel lost. It's, I think, like you said, even with the guilt, it brings you back to yourself. It really brings you back in to go, oh, okay, do I need to redesign something? Do I need to look at something? Do I need to be changing the way I'm living or doing my life? And I think that's always a very healthy reflection to have. And that's what I find comes out of those moments. So you turn them into something more productive and inspiring versus negative. So I always look at it in that way.
It's almost like you look at these situations, even when you are feeling a bit lost and lonely, as ultimately you have some control, some choice over how you want to perceive it, and whether you let yourself fall down into a pit of despair, or whether in fact you grab the goodness that's there, whatever it is, whether it be the nice, fresh, sunny day, or whether it be a giggle that you can hear in someone's bedroom, and you try to latch onto that rather than maybe some of the other feelings that are also happening at the same time.
Exactly. And I think we always have that choice to turn every moment into something either reflective and beautiful or negative. And I think they're the key things that we need to, it's like habits. It's thinking habits, it's mental habits that we
Mm.
get to redefine every day.
So
Yeah.
tell me what self-compassion looks like for you as a busy mum, because you've got a really big profession, a big career, and because technically you're a scientist at heart, there'd also be that ongoing need for research and being up to date with the latest literature. What does self-care and self-compassion look like to you?
It's a really good question because it can look like so many different things. I think first and foremost is looking after my own health. And so I always put my fitness, my movement, my sunshine, my water, my food, making sure I've got good, healthy food. And also, I've got the balance right where I'll still have the odd drink and still go out with my friends, still go out dancing, still partying if I need to or feel like it. So giving myself permission for those things and not feeling bad about them. So that's one
Mm.
way of looking at it. The other is surrounding myself with really beautiful, inspiring community. I have a beautiful community here at my clinic. I've got a beautiful community around the world with practitioners and doctors and colleagues that I'm a part of. So that makes the load on catching up with all the science and knowing what's going on at certain times a lot easier because everyone's doing it together and sharing. And so I think community is just really such a big thing. And when I felt my most lost is when I didn't have a community or even just that feeling of belonging to a community in my life, because that's what parenthood, you seclude yourself, you inwardly come because you have to as with young children and babies, and that's when you don't see as many mums or people outside of that. You miss adults.
You're obviously in a beautiful position where you literally roll out of bed and you've got options for contact and interactions, and your calendar's populated with lots of inspiring opportunities to rub shoulders with dynamic people. What would you say to somebody who hasn't been afforded those opportunities and they're just living in their home, they've got their four walls and their couple of kids, and they're struggling, and self-care and self-compassion feels just an abstract concept? What would you say to assist them to perhaps have a different life?
I think again, we overcomplicate it and that's where we freeze. So you can't overcomplicate these things. Like just walking outside and feeling the sun on your face, even if it's a cloudy day, or even the rain on your face if it's raining outside, and just having some water and some minerals and putting your feet in the grass and just mindfully feeling that, just even for a moment, is self nourishment.
Yeah.
So even just having a shower, sometimes in those early days, just getting a shower is luxury. And the baby,
Yes.
and they're sitting there with you and they're crying, or you hear them crying in the shower and they're actually not crying. It's intense. It's an intense time. But with the communities, there's community everywhere. Feeling like you can step outside your comfort zone a little bit. We don't grow unless we do. It feels awkward. It feels yucky. But we have to challenge ourselves to push
Mm,
outside of that because then we get growth, then we get reward. So
mm,
mums at home, like just walk down to your local coffee shop and just strike up a conversation with someone, and you never know where that's going to go. Then it might change for the rest of your life. You might
mm.
create a friend for the rest of your life. So we just never know when those beautiful moments and opportunities are. We have to step outside of and understand that we might feel uncomfortable and we might get shut down, but that's okay. But then that's part of being human. Get back up, dust ourselves off, and off we go again.
And I guess it's about not having ridiculous expectations on yourself. If you're going to set yourself the challenge of going to the local cafe and have a conversation with the barista or someone else that's at the cafe, then that is mission accomplished. If it ends up resulting in a friendship of some sort or an acquaintanceship that could be built on, then that's just a bonus. But sometimes people set the bar so high, it almost feels insurmountable, because in real life, Jodi, going down to the local coffee shop and finding your best friend, your best future friend, is unlikely. But what you
Yeah.
could do is have a lovely stroll down, like you say, in the sunlight, and you get to enjoy a coffee and maybe flick through a magazine and have a conversation with someone. And
Yeah.
that in itself, if we allow that to be really enriching and almost blow it up, so it doesn't have to be that all I did was this and I didn't make a new friend. Let's just lower the bar a bit and celebrate just the experience of that. And in fact, a lot of people I speak to say that their social needs aren't huge. And just going down to the coffee shop and having a little chat with old matey and then maybe someone who's got a puppy along the way almost is all they feel like they require for the day to feel like they're connected to the world and they can go back into their four walls.
It doesn't have to be complex. And we only need those little moments of reflection, and it makes us feel vital just being outside of our normal environment. We all know how it feels when we travel. We get inspired and we feel alive. And that's all we need is just step outside our house and say hi to someone on the street and just be open and aware of what might happen after that.
Being available, I think that's really key. So
Mm.
how do you share and how do you plan to share with your children? Because it's a question I love to ask people because it was something that I found curious within myself when I was having my children. I had the mum me and then the rest of me.
Mm.
And as they got older, it was exciting for them to learn a bit more about me. But I realized you can't just show them everything at once because that's like trauma dumping almost for them. It's like, Mom, no, how do you go about it? Or how have you gone about it?
Yeah, I think the beauty of my life, everything seeps through because I will be telling my children if they want to go to bed and they haven't been able to go to bed and they've been watching TV, then little bits of information will come through. So then they know, oh, mum does this for work. She's been telling me about this for years. Or now I know why my melatonin's not working properly at nighttime or I'm not producing it because I've been watching white lights. I think for me, it infiltrates through what we do, and then they know and understand that I help people with their health so then they can reach to me as well. Again, it's like just exposing them slowly. Like my son was on the TV the other day and he was watching and he's like, oh, Mum, you're on YouTube. I'm like, yeah, I did some videos, so I'm on there. He's like, oh, okay, so you're actually on the TV. So it was really like funny for him to realize that, even though like just little tiny videos. He's, oh, okay, so you talk to people about this all the time and everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I love. I love to do that. I love to help people.
I think it's really key. Whenever my kids have heard me, because I do a lot of radio work and I've been on TV a bit, and if they notice it, I'm like, yeah, damn straight, I'm famous. So when I tell you to tidy your room,
Yeah.
to listen, because people listen to me, all right? So I try to get as much bang for my buck as I can around any of that credibility, just
Yeah.
to make life at home a bit easier.
Yeah, that's leveraging where you can.
And you're flying somewhere soon, doing some travel coming up. Where are you off to?
Yeah, so every year I go to America. This year we've got our third annual symposium for Home Hope, or Health Optimization Medicine and Practice, which I am a part of, a nonprofit and CEO here in Australia, just pushing the message out. So it's really just about training doctors, practitioners in preventative medicine and looking after health. The cell is health, and health is something that we don't always focus on in medical practice. It's a beautiful thing to be able to travel. I speak a lot on cannabis. I created an advanced cannabis prescribing course for them. I lecture and we do modules and we do cohorts. So it's a really preceptorships. I'm guiding practitioners. I do a lot of mentoring. I have even SEU students from the Masters of Naturopathy come to the clinic and learn here in a sort of like a live space, which is great, hand on hand sort of knowledge. I love going to other places, especially in America. There is so much competition for knowledge and performance. And so they're always reaching for the best. And so I get to hear and learn and understand, bring back that knowledge into my practice for the benefit of my clients and students as well.
We're very fortunate to have you being based in Australia because you're going out into the world and foraging for the latest information and research around best practice regarding our health. I particularly am a fan of preventative. Prevention's better than cure. That's with physical and mental health. And I think that's a lot of the work that I do in this podcast is to try to help mums get ahead of the curve so they don't wait till they're feeling really devastated, either physically, emotionally, psychologically, but actually when they start to see the early warning signs, they could jump onto it, or even before the early warning signs of not tracking, just embed into their lifestyle and the way that they operate, the way they think, the way they look after themselves in such a way that's going to maximize happiness, fulfillment, and longevity. So it seems like that's exactly your lane.
And I think it's just important to focus on the preventative and what we can do versus rely on the acute medicine to be the fix. And it's been focused on for way too long. And now there is so much push. And this is just the beauty of evolution as a human race as well. It's like we've done that, not so good, not doing so well with all these huge disease states that we've got. So now we're getting to that momentum of preventative health. And there's so many different organizations and obviously practitioners and world leaders and speakers really pushing this in the right way. So the needle is slowly shifting.
And what would you say to somebody that's listening to you now and thinking, gosh, I've left my run a bit late. I haven't lived healthily. The stress of being a mum or just being naive to the fact that we're not invincible has led me not to have healthy choices. And then they've arrived at perimenopause or menopause. What would you say to them?
Well, the body always has its best interest for us. So it's always willing to heal. That's all it wants. It wants to do the best by us. We have to do the best by it, and it's never too late. You can turn that around. It's always trying to reach for that perfect homeostatic healing balance. So just give it the right ingredients and it will do it.
Yeah, brilliant. That's very heartening. And if you had to give a tip, what would you say would be a really great sort of take home message based on your background and all that as a mum and as a health practitioner? What would you say would be one of the most powerful suggestions that someone could hear today and improve their experience as a mum in some small way?
I think there's so many. It is hard to narrow down to one, but I think I'll be consistent in how we've been talking through this because I think it's just one thing that we all have the power to do and it doesn't cost money. It just takes a little bit of time. And that's those micro breaks. It really is. And just
Uh-huh.
understanding that meditation is not an empty brain. No, it's going to be busy. The more you do it, the less busy it gets. But at the
Yes.
start, it's going to be really busy. But if you can do
Yes.
those micro breaks, then you're going to be empowered to make better decisions for your health.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love the way you say that because we have this idea of meditation as being this elusive thing that other people can achieve, but we personally can't because we can't quieten our brain to a complete nothingness or just one word. It's just about getting it to quieten itself down enough so that you can put a little bit of space between the thoughts and those gaps can get bigger. And anything is better than nothing in that department.
Absolutely.
And finally, what does the concept finding the you in mum mean for you, Jodi?
I think it means not losing sight of who you are and always maintaining a set of values and individuality of you as a person, because that's the power of making change and supporting other people as well. You can make difference in this world by just maintaining who you are and supporting your children, but not losing sight of that. And I think that's really important.
Thanks so much for being on the program. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you are so busy and you've been extremely generous and kind to come
No,
on the show. It was great chatting with you. I wish you all of the best with your upcoming travels and then ongoingly with your practice. I will go into more detail in the bio when we launch the podcast so people can find you and access some of your wisdom. And thanks again for coming on today.
my pleasure. Thanks so much, Christine.
Thank you. Thanks, Jodi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.